There we go.
October 3rd, 2022. You're listening to Oblast with Don and Kevin, and I'm Kevin.
And I am Don.
And we're back again. Welcome, everyone, to the show. Yeah!
Here we are. Yeah.
I listen to Dan Perkins' Generation S podcast. And
Not Dan Perkins.
yeah, it's not Dan Perkins. What's his name?
I can see his face.
Yeah, no.
Kemp.
Yeah, Daniel Kemp.
Dan Kemp. Yeah.
It's late on a Monday. Sorry. I'm just telling you.
Rough weekend.
But did you listen to it at all? Did you listen to it?
No, I did not.
Well, the first episode is all about wrestling. They're like,
okay.
They're kind of like a generation, like after us kind of a thing, right? So, like, right. They kind of like where we kind of grew up mostly in like the 80s. They kind of grew up mostly in the 90s, So they have more of during that whole like WCW, WWF time.
Yeah. The 90s.
So they were talking about a lot of their memories and stuff, and how it was kind of interesting. Actually, it was kind of an interesting first show because they were talking about their the way wrestling was hugely popular in their school system and things like that, which it was not the case in ours. I mean, people enjoyed watching wrestling. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it was pretty much me and Bailey.
Right, but I mean, it wasn't like a cultish thing, at that point in school or anything. So, Generation S. If you people are interested, it's a pretty good thing. I don't know if I'm going to listen to every episode though, and not because I don't think they do a good job, they're doing a fine job. It's just that it's a nostalgic show. And it's there's just things about that I just don't care. So I kind of look at the topics and just see, like, I'm not that interested in the episodes about, like, say, the Power Rangers or Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, stuff like that. Like, because we had Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles when I was young, but just wasn't a thing in my life. You know what I mean? So I don't want
to. Someone hung a Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle from my rearview mirror in the Green Goblin from a noose.
And then put slime all over him.
And that stuff dried out. Oh, it was nasty.
Yeah, but it's a good show. If you especially if you're of that generation, you're listening to this, listen to a show, Generation S. You can find it everywhere. Everywhere podcasts can be found. Yeah. So we had Cinema Wasteland this past weekend. I'll tell it from my angle first. Basically, all right, so this shit's been going on for like, 15 years or something? A long time.
Easily.
And basically what it is, just for people that don't know, in case you're new to listening to the show, it's a B-movie, horror movie convention at a budget hotel in a city nearby. And they basically, people come and... I don't know. Some people come for the B-movie, celebrities to sign stuff or to pick up merchandise and things like that. I don't think most people that I know go to watch any of the movies that are there because they're not like in a theater. It's kind of just like in like a conference room and you sit on an uncomfortable chair with no armrests. If you want to watch one of the movies, it's no good. But you can if you wanted to see one of the things that were there. But most people that we know, or we know of some people that will go, and then some people will rent a room at the hotel, so it becomes a kind of a roaming room party thing. Yeah. You kind of go to one room or the next or whatever, and you see what's going on, and then or whatever, depending on who you know. And it was a bigger thing 15 years ago. There was more of us probably going to this thing. And over the years, a lot of people just kind of swore it off, or they got older, and they decided they don't want to go to these things anymore. I don't know what it is, but there's still a pretty decent crowd of people that go. But I would say our core group of friends diminished significantly from what it was in past years. I also think part of it, though, as well, is that the guests that they get are not always that interesting, and so people just don't really care to go because there's nothing to pull them in, right?
Right.
And so if you're going to go, you're just going to be drinking with people in a hotel room. That's kind of what you're going to do. Or if or just hang out like Donnie does. He doesn't drink.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
And just talk to people. So anyway, that's kind of what it is. I mostly just go to see my brother at this point. I kind of see the other regular dudes that I know here and there. I see Oz when we go to movies. You know what I mean? I see Melville wherever Melville pops up. I see, I talk to you every day or every week. Yeah. I see Joe at the bar, etc. So I see people all the time. So, but I don't see my brother because he lives, it seems like he lives on the moon, but he lives kind of far away, and he drives a truck, and he never likes to come out. But he always tends to go to Cinema Wasteland. And so generally they usually run a room from Friday to Saturday to Sunday, right? So 2 nights, basically, from Friday to Saturday and then Saturday to Sunday. And it used to be that Saturday was like the day to go. Everybody kind of would show up and, you know, had the day off. It was the bigger crowd and everything. And Friday was like, you know, just people kind of checking in for the show part of it, you know, and drinking and whatever, but, you know, kind of taking it easy. But I tell you, in recent years, it seems like what happens now is that the people that get rooms, like my brother or Oz, or if Sam's in town or Law or whatever, they do most of their partying on Friday, right? Mm-hmm. And so they're wasted on Friday, and so when Saturday comes, they're just hungover and drained, and they don't have the stamina to party all night like they did the night before. And I get, every time I go lately, I'm always hearing like, you know, I partied too hard last night, I'm so fucking hungover, and that kind of shit.
Right.
And so anyway, I went in my brother's room, and it was just he and I. They asked me to bring him some cheeseburgers. I gave him a cheeseburger, and then Trip came in next with his girlfriend, and I gave them both a cheeseburger. And
why not?
Mr. Cheeseburger delivery guy. I didn't have a cheeseburger. I even gave Oz a cheeseburger, but I didn't have a cheeseburger because Oz came in next. And then we were waiting for Law, who's our friend, to get back to his room because he decorates. He gets a suite and he decorates it. Like I say, decorate. He puts in some funky lights,
strobe lights.
Yeah. Sometimes he hangs some stuff on the walls and stuff, you know. And he, you know, it's a good time. He had some crazy contacts in that made his eyes glow and shit. It would look weird.
Couldn't look him in the eyes.
Right. But, so like I got there at about 6:30 PM, talked to my brother, whatever. And then, Law got to his room at about 9, a little bit before 9, maybe. So then we went to his room, and I was standing there for about 2 hours. There was no place to sit.
Right.
And I'm just standing there, and it was apparent to me that there were certain people there that had come to drink. Like some seriousness. Like Joe was drinking vodka straight out of the bottle and polishing it off like pretty quickly. Like in the hour that he was there, I think he drank half a bottle of vodka. Right. And Mole was well on his way. Like he seemed lost a little bit, kind of wandering around, like being a mole. And, and you know, then you and Melville kind of came, and, my brother was on my right and Oz was on my left. And it was about 11 o'clock at that point. And I had done really nothing. I wasn't talking to anybody really. Music was kind of loud. And, I said to Oz, I said, "You're going to go soon, right?" And he's like, "Yep." And I said, "I know." And then I was like, my brother was starting to talk about it. And I'm like, I'm going to ghost before everybody else ghosts. I'm not going to be the one here again, looking around because everybody ghosted. Right. Right. So I just said, you know, but also like, I was tired. You know, I had been busy all day. It was 11 o'clock. Like I said, I'd already been there for 5 hours. So I was just kind of like, I'm leaving. So I just walked out and headed home. And then my brother texted me and he said that it was a good time when I left because like 30 more people apparently showed up. Yeah. And he had left and Oz had left. And then Joe ended up going to my brother's room and was really drunk, according to my brother, just mumbling a bunch of craziness to him. Yeah. And that was it. And then I did talk to Joe today, and he mentioned that after we left, you and Melville had also left. I don't know if that's true. But Joe had said that he tried to, he thought everybody went to my brother's room, and that wasn't the case. I was like, man, I was, you know, it was late. I left. I mean, there was no place to sit. Like some of those suites are okay because it's a big room and people can sit on the edge of the bed. Right. But and you don't really get to choose when you. This hotel's weird. You don't really get to choose what kind of suite. You kind of rent the suite. You get one of the suites that they have, and this was one of the ones that was like divided. So like it has like a little living area, and then the bedroom is on like the other side. And we could have gone into that room, but nobody really kind of was there. We were all kind of in the living side, and all of the seats were occupied. So there wasn't a place to sit. I'm not saying necessarily I would stay longer if there was places to sit. Maybe though, but I mean, it was just like, I just didn't feel like standing, you know what I mean? Like the whole time. Like I just felt like it was enough. So I split. So tell me, did I miss anything after I walked out the door? Did you just say fuck it and leave at that point?
No. Well, I mean, there was a whole thing after that. After you left, it was kind of like, I don't know what I did. I think I went down to my car to take those tapes out of my pocket or whatever.
Oh yeah. Okay.
And I came back up and you guys were gone.
It's a trash can.
Right? He's like, as long as Kevin Baird doesn't see. Oh, there he goes. Never mind. No, I went out and put the tapes in the car, and I came back in, and you and Brian were gone.
Oh, okay.
And they were like, the Bairds have left, and I was like, well, I'm not going to be here much longer. And so I was talking to Melville, and he was like, hey, let's go outside. I was like, all right. So I went with him outside, and Joe was like, he was yelling at us. Well, not yelling at us, but he was like, he goes, where are you guys going? What are you doing? And we're like, we're going outside. Melville wants to smoke. And he's like, all right, I'll give you 5 minutes to come back here. You got 5 minutes to go down there and come back. And Melville looks at him. He's like, dude, it's going to take 5 minutes just to get to the elevator. I said, it's going to take more than 5 minutes just to get down to the floor, down to the first floor in this place.
Yeah, he didn't know where he was at that point, Joe.
Yeah.
You could just walk like 5 feet down the hallway and you're outside.
Right. He's like, well, then I'll give you 10 minutes. He's like, you got 10 minutes to, go and come back or whatever. And we were just like, you know how it is. You're just like, okay, Joe, sure thing. 10 minutes. Got it. Just let us go. Just leave us alone. And me and him went downstairs. So we were standing outside and Mole came walking out. And you know how Mole was in the room, right? Where he was leaning on the dresser. And,
right.
Hey, man, Mole.
Pretzels and chips and shit. And,
right. It's saying the normal Mole stuff like, hey, man, the Mole's wasted, man. I'm so wasted. Like all that,
Yeah.
He went walking out of that hotel in a straight line, straight up and down, like nothing. Like it was nothing. He's just walking out. And Melville's like, there goes Mole. And I go, doesn't look too drunk, does he? He goes, not really. And I go, it's because it's all an act. I'm like, don't say his name. Don't call him. Don't do nothing. Don't bring him over here because then he'll come over here and just complain about everybody. So don't, I don't want to hear that. I don't want to hear him complain about nobody ever calls me, man. And it's like, that's what he always says. He's always like, nobody ever calls me for anything. And I'm looking at him like, nobody calls me either, but I don't care. So
that guy's annoying. He's a Mole, but the thing is with that whole, like, he's like, nobody invites me to go to the movie or something. It's like, well, I have never been invited by that dude to go anywhere. He makes these public posts that are real vague about like, everybody should get together and go do this or something. And it's like, all right, dude, well, are you orchestrating that? You know what I mean? Are you calling people up and inviting them? Because I don't know what you're talking about, He
wants nothing to do with, putting it together.
Right. He just wants everybody to entertain him. And so then it's just like, and I said, like, listen, Oz goes to the movies, man. I said, so, he kind of decides, and I said, maybe you can go, maybe you can't go. And he was like, well, I don't know if it was him or Oz who said something like, well, why couldn't he go or something? And I said, well, Sue Lee could be there. And he's like, well, I don't care about that or something. What does it matter if she's there? I said, because she's going to punch you in the face.
Yeah.
That could be a problem, based on all that bullshit that was going on your Facebook page. And, which was honestly, if anybody listening wants to know, it was nothing really, I guess.
What?
You didn't hear about this? You probably didn't hear about it.
I don't follow Mole on Facebook. I blocked him.
Well, yeah, I don't either. It's certain people.
And then she unfriended me a long time ago.
Certain people, certain people, send me screenshots
Okay.
of certain things that people say for whatever.
Yeah.
Because I have them hidden. I'm friends with them, but I have them hidden because it's too much. I mean, the guys, it's just constant Pittsburgh and blah.
Yeah.
So it's, I don't know. So it's apparently, so I'm paraphrasing the description of what happened. Mole posted this thing that basically he was talking on a chat to some girl who was being told that Mole is like a stalker, and that Sully told her all about him and that he's no good. and Mole was all like, well, that's, I'm done with people and I'm people, whatever, and all this sort of stuff. And then so Sully blocked him, and that's it. Basically, you know what I mean? Like, I don't really think she would necessarily knock him in the jaw or anything if she saw him.
She might.
Right. I mean, because she, I think she'd probably give him a piece of her mind, and probably be a very long conversation. So I don't know. So that's what I was talking about with that, but it's really nothing.
Yeah.
For those that don't know, Sully's this nice girl we know who, she
from way back in the day.
Yeah. And she's a bartender, and she'll throw down if you're not careful. And she could probably take out some people. I mean, I don't know if she could take, but people like me out. I'm so big, but probably
if she can't take someone out, she knows the people who will.
Well, that is for sure. Yeah.
Right. That's.
She knows a lot of people. You don't want to be on her bad side.
No.
But she's, to me, she's super nice. I don't know. But then again, I'm not a dude like Mole, just talking shit all the time.
Right?
Kind of, you do that. Yeah. People, it's
but
gonna come back to get you.
Yeah, and that's what I was telling Mike. I was just like, don't get his attention because he'll just come over here and complain, and he'll stand there for another 5 or 10 minutes talking about, and I don't want to hear it.
Yep.
So then Oz texted me. I guess he was calling me and stuff. And he texted me and he's like, where are you at? And I was like, I'm up front with Melville. And he's like, come to my room, 150.
Okay.
I was like, okay. So I went over to Oz's room. It was just him. He's just sitting in the room with, typical Oz, TV on, sound off, tunes on a Bluetooth speaker. And he's just sitting there in the corner. He's just like, what's up? And I'm like, what's going on? He goes, I just needed to sit down. He goes, I was sick of standing. I was like, yeah.
Exactly. Yeah.
It's like, me too. And then him and I just sat there and BS'd for a while. We complained about everybody. Complained about Ram and his wife and all kinds of, and then Mole and Joe. And,
right. My brother.
No, you guys are safe. Those other guys were not.
Right.
And we made sure to let him have it. But and that was pretty much it. After a while, it was just like I looked over at him and was like, yeah, he's ready to pass out. I'll see you later. Right. I just left.
Right on. Yeah.
Melville never showed. He was supposed to come over there. See what happened was we were outside. And I told Melville, I said, come on, we'll go to Oz's room at 150. And he goes, okay, cool. So he goes into the lobby, buys 2 Cokes, 2 bottles of Coca-Cola, and says, let me grab these first so I can for my mix, to mix my liquor. I'm like, okay, cool. And then we're walking down the hallway to go towards Oz's room. And he goes, you know what? I should go up to Law's room and get my bottle because I left my bottle up there. And I'm thinking, this is something that needs to be done within like 10 seconds. Like, you need to go in, grab it, and be like, hey, I'll be right back, and just leave.
Right.
But he's Melville, and he's not going to do that. So it's like, as soon as like the door opens and he walks in, Law's just like, Melville, hey. And he comes running up like, hey. And they just start talking. And I'm like, this is going to take a while. So I stood there and listened to him talking to everybody. And, Melville, he don't care. He'll talk to anybody about anything for as long as he likes. And he did. And I eventually said, okay, I'm leaving. I said, I told him, I'm going down to Oz's room. I want to go sit down. And that's when I left and went down to Oz's room. And then Melville never showed up there So we just left. I just left. It was just like, I'm out of here. Texted Melvin. I was like, I'm leaving. Don't go to Oz's room because he's going to sleep.
Right.
And that was it. That was my whole
Yeah, I mean,
Cinema Wasteland experience. Wasn't much.
People are too old. I think I'm just going to start going on Fridays. I'm not going to go on Saturdays anymore. Honestly, I'm not even kidding. I'm like, I feel like Saturday's just a waste of time. The last few times I've gone, I mean, you know, the time beforehand wasn't as bad, I guess. The spring show, people have been cooped up all fucking winter, you know, so they get to the spring show and there's a little more energy. The fall show tends to be a little bit weaker. You would think it would be better because it's going into Halloween and people would be like, you know, all woo, you know, but it's not because it's still warm out and people are just not in the mood to go to the hotel, you know, so whatever. I don't know. If you know, like I said, if my brother wasn't there, I wouldn't even go. I just there's nothing there for me, really, you know. So anyway, moving on.
Another boring Cinema Wasteland.
Yeah, it happens. Used to be kind of interesting. If retro comes back, maybe that will be better. I don't know. So I don't think I talked about my kayak story on the show, right? I talked to you a little bit about it, but I don't think I talked about it on the show. You got to move your microphone just a little bit away from your nose. Sorry. I know it's hard sometimes. It's funny too because you have a tabletop mic and you're just like your nose is like right over. No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah, right.
Just like really.
I got this lapel mic.
Just like breathing on. Yeah, I went. Yeah, I think I did talk about this, didn't I? I did talk about. We're not going to talk about that then. I want to talk about my drainage easement. No, because I remember talking about it. I want to talk about my drainage easement in the backyard, though.
Drainage.
I don't know. I just, you know, I got this weird piece of property. I've talked about this in the past, but to catch people up, I have this weird piece of property. Like, you know, it's just kind of a normal house you have in the suburbs kind of thing. It's a little bit too much house for me, but it's not a mansion. It's nothing crazy. It's just a standard suburb colonial 2-floor house, right? And got a yard and everything, just, you know, backyard, front yard. To me, it's just pretty standard stuff. It's not 5 acres or anything. It's like it's like 3/4 acre property. Got sidewalks, neighbors, you know, the usual kind of thing. But in my backyard, when I bought the house, I knew about this. There's a drainage easement, and it just means that like when it rains, water's gonna move across my lawn on that like 20-foot easement and go, you know, from one side of the property into the other and into a drain. But like a lot of times, like if you ever driven around a rural area, you'll often see drainage easements in the front of properties around here, which is just like a ditch next to the road, and the water kind of goes along there for lack of having it underground or sewers or storm sewers or whatever. They have a drainage easement ditches, right? Well, I didn't have a ditch in my backyard. You basically have like a dent called a swale. And the water that moves across my lawn is a lot of water, and especially when it's like storming. Like it's like you could put a canoe on it and paddle around. That's how much water we're talking about. Like it's big, and it brings in a lot of silt, I guess you would call it, and the grass likes it. You know, it's like, woo, we're going to grow big, you know, and it's going to be muddy and your lawnmower is going to not do well here. But over time, I've been here for 12 years. The swale went away. The dent went away. Right. So my new neighbor had come in and he was complaining to the city about the drainage in his backyard. Kind of came in here late winter, early spring, when the ground is just soaked, you know. I don't know where he's coming from, you know, he's just not used to it. And he's just trying to figure out why his dog's paws are muddy and stuff. And, you know, and it's fucking normal around here, you know, this time of year. So he ended up calling the city, though, to complain about it or something. And I don't think he quite understood the situation in the rear of the yard and how it was laid out. And the city service director, or whatever he is, came out and I'm sure he had no answer for him for his drainage, but he kind of looked over at my yard and he's like, well, his yard needs needs to be regraded or whatever. He doesn't have a swale. Now, I want to just point out that this was not something that was impacting my neighbor at all, because the neighbor that was here before him had dug a trench from where this water comes out near his property, and he dug it onto my property, which I didn't mind. I knew this guy. And he dug this trench to move all that water from that one corner of the property that was his into my property to have it flow down into the drain, which worked great. Okay. So there was no water that was like going from my property to my neighbor's property. It was just, the opposite basically. So whatever the city service director was looking at my property, it wasn't going to fix this guy's problem because the water was leaving his property. Yeah. But anyway, he ends up sending me this fucking death threat letter from that says I have to fix this problem. So I ended up contracting out a company, showed them the situation, that basically the water moves from one side to the other and I need a swale, So we talked about it. It's like, okay, well, we can dig that out. We'll put down some kind of like landscape paper, and then we'll put some rocks on it, And I'm like, cool. It's going to be $4,000. Yeah, of course it is. Everything I do is ridiculously overpriced or whatever. It's, So anyway, that took, about 4 months for them to show up. And they trenched it out, and then they put down the paper, and then they put down a lot of rocks. Like, it's all rocks. It's just all big, long, like 5 foot wide trail of rocks in my backyard. And it works, but I'm looking at it and I'm just like, this is some goofy shit. Like, I don't know. I guess this is like what the city wants, but here's the problem with it. Like, I'm looking at it and it's fine right now. It's fine right now. But I know what's going to happen is that there's too much silt that comes out of this stream, and the volume of water is a lot. And it's going to quickly cover those rocks up over the next year or two. And then grass will grow on top of it, and there'll be no more swale again. And then the city's going to be calling me up on the thing, and they're going to be like, you got to fix this problem. And I'm just like, I don't know what to really do about it, to be honest with you. Like, the guy that lived in this house before me, tried to get a pipe put in, and the city rejected that. And then he wanted to put in this garden retaining wall. The city rejected that, and he went ahead and did it anyway. And it's there now. And that doesn't really help with the drainage or anything, but it looks nice. But every time like the city sends me anything, they always mention the fact that wall is not supposed to be there. And it's like, look, it's not my fault. I didn't put it there. I bought the house later, And so they're always like, well, you don't have to get rid of it or anything. It's like, yeah, because if I get rid of it, it's like there's a hill behind it basically that goes into it. So then the hill will fall, the trees that are on it will fall over, and then it'll start to erode my neighbor's property, which is higher than my property at the rear. So of course they don't want me to remove it. Just create bigger problems. Yeah. So anyway, that got finished. It is what it is. But being a homeowner, it's just, I tell you, it's a trade-off. It's nice having your own place, but people say, oh, you're investing in yourself and everything and stuff like that. But it's kind of like let's say I have my house, right? My house is paid off. Okay. And let's say I take my house and I sell it and I get a good price for it. Let's say I get a bunch of money, right? I still got to live somewhere, right? Yeah. So yeah, I could live. People are like, you could live in someplace that's smaller, and it's like, well, that sounds exciting. Why would I want? I'd have a bunch of money for a little while, and then now live in a smaller place, with less or something like that's. Or you can buy a bigger place and then have bigger problems, right? So there's really not like that much of an advantage. People always talk about, well, like, I sell my house. This is all about selling the house and flipping the house. And people are all like, all about the house sale, good schools, make your property worth more, blah, 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 blah. And it's like, man, I just bought the house. I bought this house to live in the fucking thing. Right? I didn't buy it as like some sort of fucking Wall Street investment. I mean, of course I don't want the property value to go down or anything, But I'm just saying, like, it's I'm not like, flipping houses over here. I didn't move in to flip the freaking house. I want to just stay here until like I'm too old to do anything. Or if the lady friend wants to like get a different house at some point because she thinks, whatever, she has some reason for it. Maybe then I sell it. But other than that, I'm staying where the fuck I'm at. It's like, forget it. I don't know. Anyway, so I don't know why I went on that tangent, but I just did. Just made me mad.
Yeah. Well, the easement isn't so easy, is it?
It's just it's always something, man. I had to buy that shed. That thing costs like $9,000. I had to get and people are wondering, like, why'd you have to get a shed that costs $9,000? Just go buy a shed like for $1,000 at fucking, Home Depot or something. Well, unfortunately, due to the rules in my city and this drainage easement in the back of my property, the only place I could put the shed was too close to the house. It's not actually that close to the house, but fire code wise, it's too close to the house. So the shed had to be built with a firewall in it. So I had to get a custom shed built with a firewall. Plus I wanted a cement floor, because the ground around here is really wet and it just sink into the ground. So put it on the cement and then it's better. Anyway. So that shed's done. And then my driveway, that costs like $15,000 to get. I mean, it's all, I mean, I got rid of the tankless water heater, or I got the tankless water heater because the tank went. That cost $3,000. Yeah. I haven't done any remodeling yet, I'm sure that's going to come. I'm doing the painting myself. So that's a bonus.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Is that? Oh.
So.
Anyway.
I was thinking about religious stuff, and one of these things that I always try to like rectify in my head is like, religious people, not all, but a lot of them, people always think that like, when their loved ones die, they're going to go up to heaven, and then one day you'll go up to heaven too, and you'll see them or whatever, I suppose, or if you're lucky, go to hell
allegedly,
and. But I was thinking about it, and it's just like, like let's just look at things logically for a second. Like, what would heaven actually be? Like, let's say you died, dude, right? And you go up to heaven. Now, first of all, what body are you going to be in? Are you going to be in the body that you died in? Are you going to be like 95 years old? Let's say you live that long. Are you going to be in a 95-year-old's body when you go up to heaven?
I mean, according to Star Wars. I think that's how it works.
I mean, I'm not sure, right? No, because I think Anakin was younger.
Because then they switched it. Yeah, they switched it when they redid it, and they made Anakin younger again. So it's like I don't
think
really
that's even heaven. That's just the Force. But But how would you
Force is heaven?
Like which one would you be? And then you ask yourself, okay, so then like you go meet your father, that's there, and what if he's like the young version of your dad? What if he's like in the 19-year-old body of your father? You're walking through heaven, you're like, that dude looks like my dad if he was a kid, right? And he's like younger than you. He's like, what's up? And you're like, whoa, you don't look like the dude I know. It's like, well, I'm him, but I'm younger, right?
Yeah.
Like that just seems like ridiculous. Like that's not gonna be like, you know what I mean? Like, not to mention just it's gonna be like really crowded. Like,
well, right. That's the thing is like there would obviously be more people in heaven than there are on the planet, so it must be a big place.
I mean, it's gonna be full of like what, Romans, like lots and lots of like Chinese people,
dinosaurs.
I don't think it's gonna be dinosaurs.
You know what I mean? But, woolly mammoths.
I don't think I think pets aren't supposed to go because if there was, I mean, can you imagine how many cats and dogs?
Well, that's what I'm saying. They have a special place. Well, dude, it's probably
different rooms or something.
No, it's basically a big open plain, right?
All right.
And you can't see your feet. You know why? Because the ground is clouds. So you're just like. You know what I mean? It's like Mork calling Orson. Remember on Mork and Mindy when Mork would go into that thing?
How long is that going to be entertaining for you?
And it's just dogs and cats, birds flying around you, bees and bugs, like
bugs.
snakes.
Well, fucking bugs. There would be a bug.
All the animals in the world. You know what I mean?
There would be. It would be like trillions of ants. It'd be fucking ridiculous.
God's gonna be like, you know what? I didn't plan for all these animals. He goes, I sent a flood to kill all of them, but Noah. like saved them all. And I was just like, no, that's not what I wanted. I wanted to wipe them all out, so there were no more bugs.
But it's like
now there's bugs everywhere.
But it's like, logically speaking, like your personality, I mean, it's based on pretty much like how you feel physically most of the time. Like you're tired, you're
angry, happy,
right? Your mood, you're hungry, you're sleepy, and if you don't have these things, like you're just like you're basically a different person, So like, what are you when you're there? Like what is the point of that? Is that your reward to be somebody
you're always
else
happy
when you go? Yeah. I mean, again, how long is that going to last before you're bored of whatever it is that's there, Like they can only offer you so many times that you're going to see like your favorite band in concert again or something until you're just kind of like, well, I'm really not interested in seeing that again. Or do they just teach you how to play the harp like in all those shows?
Yeah.
You get wings on your back and you can fly around for a little while. I mean, I just, it doesn't make a damn bit of sense really, in any sort of logical way. Like you'd have to be on a planet that's just like Earth. We're Earthlings. We breathe air. We do all these things. If you remove all of this stuff, you're just a spirit floating around, whatever, like you're not the same person. You're not that person anymore. You're just like a memory bank of what that person was. And now you're just like going through some other kind of existence that's just completely alien to whatever you're doing. Go ahead. Sorry.
No, that's right. I was going to say, do you think like if you went to heaven and you're like walking around, you're like, okay, cool. I'm just getting my head around this. I'm in heaven. I'm dead. But I feel good. I feel happy, right? You feel enlightened. You feel that's what you're supposed to feel like, right? The warmth of that's what they say. You feel like you're, welcome and all this stuff. And it's like, what if you see somebody that like you didn't like, but they made it to heaven and you're just walking around and then you see him across like
Hitler's over there or something? What are you doing?
Well, Hitler's not going to be in heaven, but like somebody from, Bill Fielder's in there or something.
Okay. Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it's just like, oh, there's that guy. You know what I mean? It's like, am I supposed to forget the basketball to the head or,
right, but you're never going to run into that guy. I mean, if everybody's everywhere, right, and there's trillions of people there, like you're not going to run into anybody. You're not going to know anybody. I mean, I do. I mean, that would be like if you right now went to China. Like, you're not going to run into Bill Fielder in China. He's not there. Well, maybe you're going to get lucky. You're going to go to the Great Wall of China, and he's going to be on holiday. You'll be like, there he is. Wow.
Right.
It's
McFry.
Yeah. But no, I mean, it's in that kind of a thing. Now, the opposite is that you could have the tailored heaven, right? So you go up there and you see what is going to make you happy.
Just the people
right? And you see them the way you remember them. They're there, but maybe they see themselves as being younger. You see them as how you remember them. I don't know, but then again, that makes a whole. Like, that's all disproportionate. It doesn't make sense because if you saw somebody that was supposed to be 90 and then they're like, let's play racquetball or something, and they're diving and doing stuff, you'd be like, all right, this isn't right. Like that's not how I remember you or whatever. So it's like that whole like line of existence just doesn't work, man. I just don't get it. The other thing too is like, to me, like if God's real, right? Like in the traditional sense, okay.
Is there a new way sense of being alive?
Because
being
like,
real?
You could think of like maybe like it's a artificial intelligence, right? Like it's we could be in a grand simulation, and you might wake up kind of like in the Matrix type of thing, right? And you might wake up around I might be where you're at, and you'd be like, how'd you like that last one? You'd be like, that one sucked. My life was bullshit,
Right.
And I'd be like, well, mine wasn't too bad, but I still didn't make billions of dollars like I had hoped,
Yeah.
So like, we got to change around the rules a little bit. Like, I want to be a billionaire when I come back. Okay, that could be the thing, right? Or maybe there's reincarnation, like the Buddhists believe or something, and you just keep going through cycles. But I'm saying, like in the traditional sense of like, say like the Christian theology or the Jewish theology, the scary thing to me is thinking like, if there's this higher power that is like out of the Bible, where like God, if you read the Bible or you're aware of it, if you haven't read it, you watch movies and stuff. God would do some mean things to people sometimes.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like he'd kill the firstborn sons of Egypt. He'd turn a whole city into salt and have people's eyes get gouged out, whatever.
Plagues.
Right. Exactly. And so, if that kind of personality is up there, on the throne, Lord knows what he could do to me to just torture me for all eternity. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like I could just constantly wake up in like a box with water slowly rising over my head.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And then I would die and then wake up and do it again, like over and over again, eternally. I mean, at some point I'd probably go insane and no longer be a person, but then they're omnipotent and they could fix that, and just constantly torture me, for all eternity kind of thing.
You know how you torture you? You'd be like, "Oh, you like Little Debbie? We're a hostess heaven."
And you're always, and you're always like subordinate, right? There's no equality in a situation like that. Yeah. So you're always stuck. The other thing too is it's like if you go on like forever, like there's things in my life that like I'm sure everybody has this where you just think back on something and like it still kind of bugs you, or it's still kind of sits
so
in,
much
makes you feel just like it did when it happened. You're just like and,
the worst.
Yeah, and like you're gonna carry that forever, like you know what I mean? Like it's just like this personality that I have is gonna go on forever, and all those fucking horrible things is gonna like persist with me for forever. I mean that's
it's the worst.
Yeah, it's just it's hard to equate that. Now I've read the Christian idea where basically they do say that you would have a body, right? You have to have a body, which makes sense because if you don't, what are you at that point? You're just a memory bank or something. You have to have a physical body, and they say that you're going to be joined with God, and all the answers and the knowledge will then become clear. That's kind of where they leave it at, right? They're not really promising you that St. Peter's at the gates. They're not telling you you're going to learn how to play the harp and fly around with wings. They're basically saying that, these things are going to be answered. It's very vague. It's vague, right? Yeah. It sounds made up. It's one of those, it's one of those things where like, somebody's like, well, we'll have salvation. And then they're like, what is salvation? Well, it's, whatever you want. Whatever makes you happy, I guess. Really? I can have a bunch of whores running around? No, not that. I mean, within the rules, Steve.
No alcohol.
Can't have all that. It's going to be all the goods. It's not going to be like that. I don't even want to go. Although I guess the Muslims sort of solve that problem with the whole virgin thing, right? The 100 virgins or whatever the heck it is.
Right, so it's like, is it or isn't it? Which one is it? You know what I mean?
Right.
Like who?
And who are those 100 virgins? Are they just like new women that they created just for you?
Right.
Or did they live on Earth,
and they
never had
sex,
and then, arrived to be with you at that point? And then does virginity matter when you're in heaven or whatever it is for them?
Do you think the women in Muslim heaven have to wear the
burqa,
the shawl, the burqa, and the shawls and all that stuff?
I don't know.
Or are they finally like able to take it off?
Their hair that God created,
right? But now they're like
their hair, but we don't want you to see that hair. Like that's
can you imagine if you're like a Muslim woman, and you die, and then like your ghost is looking down at your body like, oh no. Or like your spirit or your soul, whatever, is looking down like, oh, I guess I'm dead. And then all of a sudden you start ascending to heaven. Right. And you're like, hey, cool, I'm going to heaven, right? It's like, what are the chances that you get there and they're just like, all right, so you're a virgin. We need you to go over here. Because we got plans for you.
Right. We got to go be with that guy. He's a little wacky.
Yeah,
but he's your master for eternity at this point. And he gets to do whatever he wants to do or something. Like what? Yeah.
He died in a suicide bombing, so he gets to have you with all these other 99 other women.
Yeah, that doesn't sound fair, right?
You're just like, you're all happy about going to heaven. You're like, oh, this is great. I'm going to heaven. And they're just like, yeah, you're a virgin. We're going to send you over here.
And then like if you are that guy and you have sex or whatever, like with all 100 women for however long, at some point you're gonna be kind of tired of that, but you're stuck with 100 women. You
gotta sleep, man.
Just talking to you, screaming at you, telling you, clean your room. whatever.
Yeah.
He's just going to be like, ah.
You're such a loser. Why won't you get a job? It's like, shut up.
It's going to be, at some point you're just going to be like pulling your hair out. No, I mean, like if something existed, it'd have to have some sort of a plan. Like it'd have to have some kind of like, okay, now you're on Earth 2 and you get to live forever in this body of yours. But here's a spear. You can feel pain, and we're starting you all over again. Start from scratch. Begin. And you're like, what? Wait, where'd you go? Oh, you're not going to answer me now? Is that how it is? Yeah. And then you're stuck just like in a field with like saber-toothed tigers and shit trying to fight. And I don't know. It doesn't make any sense.
You know what's kind of funny is I started this. I don't know if this is a change of subject.
No,
it's kind of close to it. Yeah. But I started watching this show on CBS called Ghosts. It's a sitcom.
Very generic. Okay.
Yeah. Right.
Well, I mean, the name is. I mean, it could be anything.
It's based off a British show called Ghosts.
Okay.
So it's just it's your basic half-hour sitcom. People inherit a house. It's haunted by ghosts from different centuries and different times.
Okay.
And the girl has an accident. Now she can talk to the ghost. She can see him. And I don't know why I got directed to it. I just saw a bunch of commercials for it. After a while, I was like, okay, I'm sick of seeing this dude with the arrow in his neck. I need to know what's going on. And it's your basic silly sitcom, just dumb humor, nothing too serious. But it's funny that you bring this up because they talk like the ghosts all talk about the other side, and they're all like, like the one guy's like a Revolutionary War person, and then one dude's a Viking, and there's an Indian, and there's like a black lady from like Prohibition times. And there's different people, and they're all they always same thing. They're like, well, we can't change our clothes. We can't, it's like we're stuck in the way we were when we died. So the one dude has no pants on, never, ever. He's always walking around with no pants on. It's just like, they're like, yeah, we can't do anything. It's kind of sucky. We've been standing around this house for centuries and hundreds of years. And then it's like in the opening scene of the show, the lady who owns the house originally dies in her bed. Her spirit comes out of her body, and they're all standing there. All these ghosts are standing there like, hello. And she's like, what's going on? And they're like, well, what happens is, we're all ghosts and we're all people who died in this house. And one of two things happens. Either you stay here or you go off into heaven, and then whoof, and she disappears, and they all just go, lucky. They're like, oh, you're lucky.
Right.
So it's like, according to the show, there is a heaven that you can go to where it's like much better. But if not, then you just walk around where you died and just be like,
which is really most ghost stories. Yeah. I mean, the thing is too, it's like take Vampire Story, right? Because I like Interview with the Vampire just started back on AMC or something. Like imagine like you became immortal, right? Like you became a vampire or something. Like at first you're thinking, well, that sounds great. Like I'm immortal. Nobody can shoot me with bullets, so I'm not going to die and everything, and I can fly. I'm strong and stuff. But then think about it, like, what if somebody like gets you, and instead of like putting a wood stake through your heart or something, right? They put you like a mile underground, and then just like fill it all up.
Yeah.
And you're just stuck underground for eternity.
That's from like a movie or something.
Probably. But the thing is it's like, then what? Then what do you do? And now there's lore about that. You sleep for 1,000 years or something. But no. But what if you didn't? Like, what if you were actually immortal and you didn't? You were just like stuck in underground. So if somebody made me immortal, I'd be like, fuck, this is like really, really bad right now. Because at some point, the Earth might disintegrate or blow up, and you'd be what? Just sitting in the middle of space?
Just floating around like Princess Leia.
Just like unable to go anywhere or do anything. You're just stuck there. Yeah, just nowhere to go, no one to talk. I mean, even if you could find an alien race, I mean, if you could somehow get there, like they probably couldn't speak to you.
It would be so quiet in space if you could survive that. If you were just floating there because it's so silent, you know what I mean? There's no sound, there's no nothing.
Right.
You would just be like, it's like those, they got those rooms that go like negative decibels.
Right.
And they're like, if people stay in here for 5 minutes, they go crazy. That would be you. You'd just be floating through space, just crazy.
Insane, right? Like everything I'm talking about is like, it would just drive you nuts. Like it's like none of this,
around.
Like everything is like our whole existence, our identity as people, is this it's this aging process, these bodies, and the fact that like we're not crazy, because there's a lot of things that can happen without even any of the biblical stuff. I mean, you can, like what happened to my dad, you can stroke out and be in the hospital and paralyzed, like eyes fixed forward, and can be in there for years. I mean, it's fucking horrible, and then, that awaits us, or losing our minds and all these other things, and it's like, I don't know, but yeah, I do believe that that we were probably created in some way. Like, I don't know by what, right? I don't really put a lot of stock in the biblical beliefs. I think that was a bunch of old men who tried to make sense of things and wrote it out. And there's lots of different people all around the world that tried to make sense of this. But I think, like, as human beings, as creatures, we evolved over time with certain senses, right? Sight, smell, taste, touch, hearing. And we did all of that in order to become better at survival, as being like, predators, to eat, to survive, to not get killed by things, etc. And those are the senses that we've developed, right? But that's not necessarily what the universe is completely made out of. We know some of the universe because of the things we can sense around us with our senses. We can see and hear and all this sort of stuff. And we've, can measure pressure waves and, do math and all these things to figure things out. But there's probably other parts of the universe and reality, let's say, that we can't experience because we simply don't have the senses to detect it, to know what else is out there that's there. And it doesn't have any impact on us with our physical bodies, but it may hold a lot of answers as to what all of this is and what it's all for, right? And I'm not saying that's spiritual. Like I said, it could be a simulation. It could be an alien intelligence. It could be just a constant repeating over and over again situation. We might have done this an eternal number of times, this podcast, and we might, all the universe over 1 trillion years might just dissipate, and then a big bang will happen again, and the exact same things will unfold over and over and over again. I mean, it's hard to say, but I do believe that there's something going on there, because to me, I do understand chaos theory and order from chaos and all of this sort of stuff, but I feel like, because of the Fermi paradox, which means that like if aliens existed at any other point, they should have existed before us because of the long time period that the universe has been around and the vastness of the universe. And if aliens should exist, we should be able to see them because interstellar travel would populate most of the universe rather rapidly. And due to the way we can sort of see and listen, I say see, but it's also like, radio waves and all these kinds of things.
James Webb Telescope.
Right. That we would detect their creations. And some people will say, well, what if they were here and then they blew themselves up or they died or something? We would see their creations. We would see what was left of their civilizations. We would see them, and we don't. And so now you could argue that, okay, well, maybe they never, like with us, maybe we blow ourselves up before we get to the interstellar space travel thing. And maybe that doesn't happen. I'm thinking, though, with the randomness of the universe, that it's probably pretty good that not every one of them would have blown themselves up and we would have run into them. So it does seem to me that intelligent life is, especially the kind that reasons like we do, is got to be like maybe only us. Rare earth phenomenon is what it's called. Because if you look at all the other animals on Earth, they're really not, they don't have computers and they're not driving cars, right? They're just happy being animals and eating fruit or whatever the heck they're doing, eating fish under the sea and stuff. We're the only creatures that are like this. So why is that? Why aren't like gorillas reading Shakespeare right now? And I know, don't forward me some documents, people. I've read a lot of this stuff. You'd be surprised at this age, when you have these discussions with people, how many people send you materials to prove their point looking the other way. I get it. I get it. But science can't prove one thing, and religion can't provide proof of another. I'm not sure either is accurate. You know, I was watching The Scientist. I'll end on this. I was watching The Scientist this other day. This woman that's on YouTube. It's called Physics Without All the Gobbledygook. I think it's called that. Or it's Science Without All the Gobbledygook. German woman. She's very smart. She's written some books. And she was talking about the Big Bang. And she was talking about how there's these articles, and they're always talking about, like, you know, where the Big Bang started, how, you know, did we all start with a black hole? You know, did it all become, you know, were there multiple Big Bangs? Was it, you know, and she basically says, you know, the real honest truth about it is that we don't know. We don't know if there was a Big Bang. We don't know if there even what we know. She's like, is that basically, and I'm going to get this wrong, but I'm just kind of saying basically what she kind of said was that we can see that there was this point in time where everything heated up and moved faster, right? Like moved faster than it supposed to. But we don't really know why, and we don't really know what happened before that.
Yeah.
So people say, oh, it was the Big Bang, but that's just them guessing. And she said, and so all of these people, they do the math, and they're like, they can tweak the equations. They can say, well, if we change this equation around, we can make it so like we all started from a black hole. Or we can change this around and we can make it like it always repeats itself. But they're just guessing. There's no evidence or proof of any of this, right? So we don't know if any of it actually happened or not. There's just one of those things. So that's the problem in a lot of ways with science. Science is great when we have something in front of us and we can measure something. That's why scientists tend to be atheists, like, you know, big ones, because, you know, they only look at things they can measure and they don't believe in things that they can't. I mean, that's just the way science is, you know. But the thing is that there's lots of things in the universe, in our reality, and, you know, that we can't measure, but we have to assume happened, right? Or we have to have some understanding of that. And Einstein, who was probably one of them, you know, the most brilliant person who ever lived, maybe, he was able to, like, you know, create his theory of relativity, and it's been holding up, and it's very accurate about describing how our universe works in many ways. But he knew at the time that it doesn't hold up when it comes to quantum physics. But he didn't care, I guess. He was like, well, I can't explain that part, guys. I can't explain the quantum physics, but it works with everything else. Yeah. So, and that's been the standing theory, and no one has been able to connect the dots. No one's come up with a different theory or a better theory to align the two together. There has to be one, but they can't. They have not been. I won't want to say they can't. They have not been able to figure it out. And so that's the problem in general with science, and that's where I was going with the fact that, like, there's a lot of this parts of the universe and what reality is that we just don't know. We do not know what it is or what it's made of or where it's going or et cetera. There's so many things about our universe that we're clueless about. Yeah. And so I don't necessarily believe that there's an old man sitting on a cloud. I don't believe in that, you know, that if there is somebody that's that omnipotent, I don't think they're going to look like Wilford Brimley or something, right. You know, and sit in a castle in the sky or something. Like, it just
not like Clash of the Titans where Zeus and all them are just standing around a table that looks like your city.
To me, no, I don't think that's going to be what it is, right? You know, but I think that existence might be somewhat selective. My existence might just be my own, as far as I know, and everything else is just a physical. But whatever it is, you know, if I die and it's nothing, I'm not going to care, right?
Right.
And if I die and I wake up somewhere and it's different, I guess at that point I'm just going to have to, like, figure out what the new rules are, right? And hopefully figure out where I fit into that, and not in a tank with water rising over my head until I die over and over again. So
pushing a rock up a hill.
But yeah, I just kind of want to talk about some of the weirdness about just, kind of jokingly about heaven and hell and all that, because I just always just find that to be kind of amusing that people think that they're going to see that stuff. And I'm not trying to offend anybody. If that's what you believe, that's fine, I guess. I just I can't rectify it in my own head. But if you've got it figured out, good. Because if that brings you comfort in this crazy world, that's what you need. Because
enjoy it.
Yeah, living where you're not sure of things all the time like I am is misery.
Yeah, right.
I wish I had like Jedi's confidence that he's going to go to heaven and everything. You know what I mean? Like, and they have that feeling like it's all going to work out in the end and stuff like that. Like, listen, I've been Christian. I'm not going to. If you write me and be like, you can find Jesus too. No, it's not going to work on me.
Good. I found him once.
I've been all through that, and in a lot of different ways, and it's not. My brain is too skeptical about these things, but. For other people, I just think that maybe they've had different experiences. They've had different moments or awakenings or whatever it is where maybe they've had, these epiphanies. And maybe if this God exists, he reaches people in different ways, and he just hasn't reached me in that same way because he's like, well, Kevin's useful because he's very skeptical and he can do taxes well. So we'll keep him that way until the end or something.
Yeah.
But Jedi, he's selling lights at this company. He's not doing so well, so we need to like grace him with some additional feelings of holiness. I don't know. I have no idea, but I just think that it's different strokes for different folks, right?
I'm going to throw this out,
all right.
And Kevin will understand this. Most people who hear this will probably just be like, "Yeah, whatever, Anderson," but Kevin would understand this. If there was an afterlife, if there was a heaven. And if there was a way for people who died to communicate with the living, I am 100% positive my dad would have already come back and yelled at me for something. You know what I mean? Like he just would have been like, I knew you were, keeping secrets or whatever and do it. You know what I mean? Just, I knew it, you bloody idiot. You know what I mean? So it's like when my dad passed, and I was just like, okay, first couple weeks, you're like, I'm just waiting for that visit. I'm just waiting for the visit. My one nephew's like, oh, I saw this and I saw that and it was real and he really talked to me. And it's like, there's no way that he came to you and not me. You know what I mean? It's like, and I'm not trying to say I'm egotistical or nothing, but it's like, my dad would have yelled at me.
Right.
You know what I mean? There's something that I did that he found out about, and he's just like, well, you idiot. You know what I mean? Like no matter how good the heavenly happiness is, my dad would have gone there and been like, he did what?
Right.
Like that son of a bad.
I mean, if you are religious-ish, or not you, but people in general listening, or you, whatever. The thing is that I believe that even though Hollywood makes it out to be like Patrick Swayze dies and then he's like there making pottery and stuff.
Right.
In biblically, when you die, you're in a suspended state and you're not alive or dead. You're just in the ground or whatever, a box of ashes or whatever. And you have to wait until the end times, whatever, Revelations or whatever. And then all the spirits rise and go to heaven. Oh. So there would be no ghosts. There would be nobody stuck in between. None of that stuff is real. Like you're off until such time that they raise, God comes back down and raises up. Now there's some rapture shit in there too, depending on what your belief system is. But yeah, you have to wait until the end, So your dad will yell at you when you both rise up at the same time. Everybody goes together, basically.
No, great. Now I just gave him something else to yell at me about.
I was just talking to my brother today, and he was making some sort of a joke about like jerking off or something, and then like we were talking about. I sent him a message, and I said, there's certain bands that I have a problem listening to because the lead singer killed themselves, like Nirvana, Soundgarden, Linkin Park. I said, not all bands, like Windy-O is okay,
right.
But there's just certain bands that I don't know why it is. Like if I hear Nirvana, the first thing that comes to my mind is Kurt Cobain killed himself. It's just whatever reason. That's the first thing that floats into my head. Okay. And Brian's like, he's like, I like that with porn chicks because I think they're watching me as I. And he goes, and that's sexy or something or whatever. And I laughed and I said, yeah, and Dad and Mom are watching you too.
You're right. They're standing next to him like, so how do you know Brian? They're like, we don't. He just made us watch it.
Watching him whack off, you know.
Yeah.
And my dad's probably pissed off that he's doing it. My mom's complaining his room's dirty.
Damn it.
Yeah, just you know. So we were just kind of cracking on that today. You know. But whatever. Anyway, I'm not. You know, we're not trying to offend people. That's just what we.
No. There's no offense in it. There's no offense intended in any of this. It's all for fun.
Just kind of talking in general because it's all a big mystery. None of us really know what the heck's going on. And,
Heck no.
Anybody that says they does, either they're touched or they're a liar. You know.
By the time we find out, it'll be too late to tell anybody else.
Right. You know, but you did mention that one thing, and we'll end on this, is the fact that Houdini, later in life, he had disbelieved in psychics. And he went around through a lot of his life disproving that psychics were fake, right? And he
disproving? Disproving they were fake.
Disproving them and showing that they were fake.
Oh, showing that they were fake. Yeah. Okay. Gotcha.
And I believe it was him or I think it was Arthur Conan Doyle was his friend. One of them said something, but I think anyway to his wife and said, if I die, if there's any truth to any of this, you know, I'm going to come back and I'm going to tell you this specific thing.
Right.
And I think for 10 years she had a seance kind of thing trying to reach him. And in 10 years, nothing ever happened, you know?
Right.
And that's when she said, obviously there's nothing to this and we're just going to end it here kind of thing.
Yeah.
So, but again, biblically, he's not supposed to be anywhere. He's in the ground. You know, you're not supposed to have ghosts or anything like that. All that ghost adventure stuff, not real.
Come on, bro.
Biblically.
Where are you?
That also depends on what religion you subscribe to and everything else. So who knows? All right, anyway, we're way over. So thanks for listening, everybody, to our crazy ramblings on this episode. And we'll be back next week with something, I don't know, less controversial. Write us at oblast@vgn.us if you got a topic you want to hear us talk about. Otherwise, have a good one.
Peace.
You've been listening to Oblast with Don and Kevin. If you'd like to write into the show, send an email to oblast@vgn.us. That is VGN as in video game news. And be sure to check out our Patreon page, which is at patreon.com/VGN, where you can get all of our shows, our videos, and some musings. Be sure to tune in each week for new episodes on our Patreon page or every other week on the public RSS feed that you're subscribed to now. Thanks for listening, and good night.
Peace.